Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Once again, Fakhruddin is before you. Actually, I remained busy in preparing the lectures regarding classical poetry, and now with three more lectures, I am back. Today's lecture comprised of the biographical details and the achievements of John Donne. At first, we begin with biographical sketch of Donne. We see that this guy was born in 1572 in London. Actually, this boy was born in a Roman Catholic family, which was under stress because of the law made by the clergy, made by the parliamentarians of England. This law put very harsh restrictions on Roman Catholics, and this was the reason that his parents had been banished from the country of England, and sadly they both died in exile. Only Donne left behind. And we see in 1584, when Donne was matriculated from Oxford, we find this man not being accepted in any of the College of Oxford University. It was mandatory for the persons to have admission in Oxford University not to be a Roman Catholic, not to believe in Roman Catholicism. So being Roman Catholic, his admission has been refused, and he had to move to another university under Cambridge. Later, in 1592, John Donne had to take admission in Lincoln's Inn, and having strong religious inclinations, we find that he was naturally prone to giving sermons to the people. But he was still undecided to continue with this profession. So John started delivering sermons, but still was undecided as to what sort of religious side should be adopted. In 1601, a very crucial year in the life of John Donne, we find that this young man fell very seriously in love with the very young girl Anne Moore, the young niece of Lord Keeper. Being so much in love, he materialized the secret marriage with her, and this was the time that had thrown this young talented guy into trouble. And the throwback and the aftershocks he felt when he got married. The first shock was that he lost all chances of being a diplomat. Secondly, he was imprisoned because he had married to a young girl because of having not taken permission from the guardian and the father of Anne Moore. Being so much humiliated and poverty-stricken, once he wrote, though wittily, though in a very funny tone, we see that he wrote to his wife, John Donne, Anne Donne, and undone. Undone means destroyed. It means that John Donne, when married Anne Moore, got destroyed. We see that his wife bore for him 12 children, and 7 of whom survived and the rest died. But we see that this young girl had died earlier in a premature death in 1617, leaving our young character, the young poet, alone in the world. Now we discuss literary side of John Donne. Donne did not write for earning money, for publication, actually he wrote to please himself. He wrote to please his conscience, to his friends, uh, and that was why we find that uh, he had taken many of the genres of literature. For example, he wrote songs, sonnets, elegies, heroic epistles, epithalamians. Epithalamians are actually the songs that celebrate some marriage, and satirical poems, love poems, and divine poems. In all these, we find that John Donne excelled in metaphysical poetry. What does metaphysical mean? At that time, Dr. Johnson, who had a great thought and was a great thinker and was a critic of the contemporary poets, he wrote the major characteristics of metaphysical poetry. Metaphysical poetry, the first point is largely lyrical. Uh, the theme, the subject matter of the metaphysical poetry is either religious or amorous. And according to Johnson, metaphysical poets were men of learning, and to show their learning was their whole endeavor. And we find John Donne uh, expressing his extreme love by giving far-fetched ideas. For example, he says that his wife and he himself are like a pair of compass, the 2 foot of compass. One that remains in the center is my wife, and the other, who himself says that he is the other one who surrounds that point, who surrounds his wife. So this is the far-fetched idea we find in the poetry of John Donne. Second point that also has been qualifying, John Donne qualifies the second point in metaphysical poetry. Use of conceits is another characteristic of metaphysical poetry. Metaphysical poets actually indulged in strained metaphors, far-fetched similes, logical hair-splitting for natural expression of feelings. Actually, all this was done to express the height of emotions of a person, leaving the traditional ways of expressing one's ideas, and uh, amorous feelings. The people adopting metaphysical way of expressing ideas usually used logical hair splitting, far-fetched similes, and strained metaphors. Uh, Third characteristic that is also found in the poetry of John Donne is that the poetry shows wit, vividness, imagery, euphuism, intellectualism, realism, and love of science and philosophy. And all these things are found in John Donne's poetry. Let's move ahead. The word metaphysical, thus we conclude, refers to style rather than subject matter. Style means as to how to express the feelings of a person into new ideas. So the style of the persons who adopt metaphysical way of expressing the thoughts chooses those ideas, chooses his expression to chooses his feelings to express in a novel way. Metaphysical is the expression of new attitude of mind, and we find that there are 3 characteristics of the poetry of Donne. That is, his poetry shows amorous, means love poetry, metaphysical, and satirical. And we find that with Donne, the new epic started. Thanks a lot. Goodbye. Allah Hafiz.